So I was born into like a Catholic family. Like I was baptized and everything. But I feel like my mum only done that just so me and my little sister could get into the only good school in this area, which happened to be a Catholic school, and you had to be Catholic to get into. Like my mum's just hella smart. So like ever since birth to like year 9-ish, I didn't know if I believed in God or not. I was like, maybe, maybe not. I didn't really care. Come to year 9, that's when I started learning a lot about Islam. And, you know, I remember thinking to myself, I was like, oh, this is what I want to do. I want to revert. And I remember, like, I was like, I want to revert. I asked my parents, Mum, I want to revert to Islam. She was like, no. I was like, that shit kind of hurt it. But I was like 13, 14. I was a kid. I didn't care. I was like, okay, my mum says I can't, then I can't. I was a kid. So come to year 10, that's when I start believing in all the shaitanry. I start believing, oh, everything is a coincidence, even though it makes no sense that everything is literally so perfect. It's all a coincidence. Shaitan was living rent-free up here, mate. I remember in year 11, I was literally debating with my friend, like, oh, Allah can't exist because, like, the universe is ever expanding. He was like, but that's mentioned in the Quran. I was like, bro. And I remember every time I'd make an argument, he'd just have to peek his comeback, bro. It was just like, bro, where are you getting this from? I'm gonna skip a few chapters, but fast forward to, like, January of this year, I start really looking into Islam. Like, I'm watching lectures, I'm talking to all my friends. Every day I'm on the phone to my friend telling him, yo, tell me more about Islam, tell me more about Islam, that type of thing. One thing that really drew me into Islam was like the predictions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because I was like, how you know that? You the police? No, but for real, that's like the peakest overlooked miracle. Because like the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he predicted so many things, like the tall buildings and everything like that have come true. But like people overlook it. But anyway, so like on top of all of the lectures I was watching, like I was on the phone to my friends 24/7 talking about Islam type thing. There was one event which I'll never tell anyone apart from my wife, inshallah, or my mum, if she reverts, inshallah. When the event happened, I literally sat up and I was like, Allah exists. Like it was proof. Like it was, I can't describe it apart from it was just proof that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exists. And then on the 8th of March at 4:32, I think, I took my shahada. And then I became a Muslim. If you don't want to see the video of me taking my shahada, then ask for it, I'll post it. Hella people's asking me like, are your friends supportive? Let me just show you something. So literally, this was gifted to me by my best friend Taz after my first ever Jummah. So I went Jummah on Friday, my first ever Jummah, and I got gifted this. My brother Anwar literally just gave me all of these books. And he also gave me the Quran as well, which is just, mashallah. Also got given this this prayer mat, super cozy. And I got given this photo as well. I got other gifts as well, but these are just only some of them.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Okay, everybody, welcome. And this is part 1 of how I found Islam and why I became a Muslim. And I just want to say, you know, I've had a lot of backlash from that last video about where I asked the questions, you expect me to believe this, you expect me to believe this, have you lost your mind? I'm not saying that you as Christians have lost your mind. I absolutely do disagree with what you believe, but I'm saying, have you lost your mind that you expect me to accept that? I don't accept that belief. Please don't come at me with that belief. Are you crazy that I would go back to that? So that was the intention of that video, and I need you guys to understand that. And anytime that you come at me, I'm going to defend what I believe wholeheartedly. And that video was made because someone sparked a reaction, and that's why I made the video. Anyway, so getting into why I became Muslim. Guys, I was a flight attendant in the US. I was happy with my life. I absolutely loved my job. I would do it for free. There wasn't a morning that I woke up and dreaded going to work, okay? I was married. I was not living a life that I was down and out. I wasn't on drugs. I didn't drink alcohol anyway, so that wasn't a problem in my life. I'm not a smoker. I lived a relatively good life. Went to church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesdays when I was at home and not flying. So I wasn't looking for anything different. My life was good. A lot of people, they turn to religion because they're at a very difficult place in their life. 6 months prior to being introduced to Islam, I did feel like inside me, I wasn't believing that Jesus and God were the same. So I wrote a prayer to God because I felt like I didn't know how to pray. And in this book, I wrote it on paper because I felt like writing it down solidified it. It made it more real. So I wrote to God, people only change when they are open and willing to accept anything to make that change. And I humble myself and I'm open and I'm willing to understand and to make any changes that need to be done. I was literally asking for God to change me to understand Christianity better and to not have those doubts about God and Jesus being the same. So that was where my head was geared, toward that, not towards anything else. But I wrote down I was willing to accept any change. Part 2 next. I was confused and I wanted to understand better. So I wrote that prayer. Moving forward, it was a long day. I had worked 7 flights that day, 6 or 7. And we had just picked up a new location for the airline that I worked for. And this new location, there were a lot of older people flying on the plane that night. We have a rule as a flight attendant, you're not allowed to leave the aircraft until all of the passengers had left the aircraft, okay? And I was what you call a commuter. So once I got to Atlanta and finished my job, I needed to get on one more plane to get home, and that was to Pensacola, Florida. So once I landed, there were 16 wheelchairs on the plane, and we were running close. We were running it close. We actually parked next to the gate where the Pensacola flight was parked, right next to us, and I literally saw my airplane. And I'm waiting for 16 wheelchairs to come and take these people off the plane, and I can't leave. So one by one, they're leaving. I'm counting down the minutes. I need to get to that other plane because I'm not going to be going home tonight if I don't make it to that plane. Literally, when the last wheelchair passenger rolled out of the aircraft, I grabbed my bags. I rolled up even past them on the jet bridge, ran to the other aircraft, and the gate agent was already gone. The aircraft was at the gate, but the gate agent was gone from the podium, and I saw the canopy being pulled back from the aircraft. So I stood there at the window hoping maybe the pilots would see me and have a heart and say, open it up, let her on the plane. But that didn't happen. I sat down at the gate area for a moment to sulk because I was really mad. I was going to have to sleep in the crew room that night and I wasn't going home. Then I decided, well, hey, maybe Delta has a late flight. I'll go look up the boards and see if Delta has a flight. I'm standing there looking at the boards and I'm so angry, and it's been such a long day that as I'm looking at the boards, I can't even make sense of the letters on the boards. Like, I can't even find what I'm looking for. I actually stood there longer than any normal person would because I was so frustrated in my head that I was sleeping at the airport. I'm standing there looking up and I hear a voice. And this voice says, I don't know you, but I know you. Part 3 next. I'm standing there looking up and I hear a voice. And this voice says, I don't know you, but I know you. And so I look up and it's a pilot for another airline. And, you know, crew have a bad reputation. And I wasn't in the place to even want to communicate with anybody. I was angry. I had had a very long day. I was tired in my high heels. I wanted to go home. I wasn't going home. So I wasn't very receptive to this person. And I thought that it was a pickup line. And so I was like, yeah. And so that's what my response was. It was rude. It was rude. I was rude. And I am not actually a rude person. He was very nice. He kind of smiled. I remember his smile to this day. He retreated, quickly retreated. And he was like, I didn't mean anything by that. And I was like, And he said, okay, well, I can see you've had a day. Have a good night. And as he turned to walk away, I felt bad. Like, I was just mean to this person for no reason. And why? Why was I mean to him? So as he's walking away, I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm really sorry. It's been a really long day. And told him that I shouldn't have acted that way toward him. I missed my flight home. And he said, that's what I meant by I don't know you, but I know you. I'm in the same situation. I figured you probably missed your flight. I missed my flight too. He was a commuter. He was going to Houston. He wasn't going home that night either. I looked at his name tag and it said Omar, because that's how I pronounced it then, was Omar. So in the US, someone who's named Omar is normally not of white descent, and this man looked white. So I'm looking at him trying to figure out what his nationality is. Like, is he African American? Is he Hispanic? What is he? I said to him, your name is Omar? Your name is Omar? Omar? And he's like, yeah, my name's Omar. Part 4 next.
Okay, people have been asking about this for a bit, so here it is. This is going to be my conversion story. It is going to be multiple parts because it's really long, but here we go. So back in the summer of 2016, I was doing this research program down at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, and my program consisted of 40 research fellows, and me being the extrovert I am, the first day I went around and introduced myself to everybody. And I met this group of Muslim women. They didn't know each other before, but they just kind of congregated together because they were like, more hijabis, like, you know how it goes. So I walk up to them and, I ask them like, oh, who are you, where are you from, kind of thing. And I got all sorts of different answers like, oh, I'm from Somalia, I'm from Bangladesh, all sorts of things. But then one of them said that she was from Detroit. And I said, oh, okay, where are your parents from? Yes, I was one of those people, I'm sorry. And she said, my parents are from here, they're from Detroit, I'm a convert. Stay tuned for part 2. All right, here's part 2. Okay, so when she said she was a convert, I was very thrown, okay? I grew up in a very small town, and in history class, when we learned about Islam, we didn't really learn that much about it. We just learned about the 5, like that there were 5 pillars. We didn't really go over what they were, but the overall premise was that it was a very oppressive religion. So I thought, like many Americans think now, that Islam was a very oppressive religion, particularly towards women. So I started asking her so many questions, and the first one was, but you're a woman, why would you convert? Mashallah, she handled it very well, and she told me it's not oppressive, and I started asking all these questions, and she answered them perfectly. And then she started telling me about Ramadan and like the deeper meaning behind the Ramadan, and I thought it was very nice. And the Ramadan had either just started or it was starting soon, so I decided to try it. Stay tuned for part 3. Okay, part 3. So I didn't tell anybody, but I was trying to fast during Ramadan that year, and I lasted 4 days. The first 3 I didn't know you couldn't have water, and then I gave up after the 4th day because I was not good at managing my water intake, like at all. So then the next year, 2017, comes around, and I'm like, you know what, I'm going to fast the whole time. Except I didn't know that it moved. So I ended up just fasting the last 2 weeks because I didn't realize it went back 10 days every year. Then 2018 comes around and I'm like, this time I'm determined. I had downloaded the prayer app so I knew exactly when it started and stopped. And during this time, my friend Massa had found out that I was fasting. And in my area, during Ramadan on Saturdays, my masjid has weekly iftars, like group iftars. So she invited me to one of those, and I was like, free food? Hell yeah! Stay tuned for part 4 and hopefully the final part. Alright, here we go, part 4. So I meet up with Massa at the masjid, and it's about 10 minutes before Maghrib, and she's like explaining everything to me. So she taught me how to say Bismillah, it's time to break the fast, so we break our fast with a date. She gives me some dates and some water. She says, okay, now I have to pray, but if you want, you can go to the gym and get the food. And I was like, you know what, I'd actually like to see you pray. This sounds interesting. And she said, okay, so she found me a spot in the back to sit and watch. And while they were praying, I can't explain it, I got this very intense feeling. When they went down into sujood, wallah, the room got brighter, my heart started pumping, and I just got this feeling that like I was in the right place in my life. So immediately after they were done praying, I started asking them so many questions, like what was it? What did all that mean? What were they doing? Okay, I lied. There's going to be a part 5. Stay tuned for part 5. Okay, part 5 and the final part. So I started asking them all these questions about Islam, and all of them got answered, which I loved. I had my own Quran in English, and I started reading it every day, and I was just falling so in love with it. One of Massa's friends, and now my friend Dana, gave me my first hijab that I put on in the masjid. I bought a couple hijabs for myself and some more modest clothes, and I started wearing hijab during Ramadan and a little bit after. But I was going to Lisbon for a fellowship like 2 weeks after Ramadan ended, so I couldn't wear it there. My parents were going to see pictures. So I told myself, okay, if I feel the same way when I come back, then I will convert. The whole time I was there, I just wanted to take my shahada. I was leaving the group, like going around Lisbon by myself wearing hijab, reading Quran in coffee shops. It was amazing. I came back to the US on a Thursday night and I converted the next day at Friday prayer. Best decision I ever made. Alhamdulillah.